I'm excited to talk. Man, I need this Wawa. My skin is dry. My lips feel dry. Novalance, save me! Oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm going to be sniffling for a little bit. I just got this one thing stuck in the back of my throat right now. I have to mute myself. All right, I'm still here. All right, let's go. That almost sounded awful, but or stereotypical. Anyways, I'm here, Neon Omen, here to stream Battle Spirits. You see Digimon here, but you also see a little bit of Battle Spirits. It is actually Battle Spirits tonight. I was just testing my camera out. I had to move things around during Thanksgiving. And now, of course, Thanksgiving has come and also gone. I am ready to enjoy myself. I am ready to stream. I am ready to deck edit. So right now, I'm going to take out my Biolante deck, and we're going to do a little deck editing. But sometimes it helps if you bring the decks over, doesn't it, Neon Omen? It does. All right. It's just a little bit off camera. I got a lot of decks. Call me a lotto deck. Lotto deck. All right. Here comes Biolante, everybody. Biolante is getting served up. Biolante has Mothra on it. I got the max rarity Biolante. Look at that bad boy. Look at that insane parallel secret. Oh, you get the kanji there, the acid spit that I'm blocking because I'm an awful streamer. But I gotta figure out a way to add into these new three because they cost a lot less. They're so easy to play. Let's go ahead and lay the deck out. Separate it. Biolante, Godzilla, Mothra, Biolante, Mothra. This is kind of both. This is supposed to be a Biolante, actually. Godzilla, Biolante, Mothra, Biolante, Mothra, Biolante, Biolante. This deck is actually a lot of fun to play. I just think I'm going to end up taking out a lot of the fun cards, which were like the red cards. The red cards were kind of additional fun to like use, but they're not as popular, I guess. Not as popular. I don't like the way this is loaded. Great. All right. Let's look at the actual Biolantes that I play in the Biolante deck. So first of all, playing 3 secret Biolante. It's the Biolante deck, you gotta play Biolante. It's a mid card. It really is. It's super mid. But I'm playing a Biolante deck, so kind of have to play it. This is honestly one of the biggest decks that could benefit from Contract Advent. And this deck would have, it would show an evolutionary story, which is kind of, I feel like, what Contract Advent is meant to convey. Something evolving into other forms, gradually growing stronger and stronger. for supporting cast members of that creature's journey or whatnot. So this is supposed to be a final form right here. Final form is actually not that good. I don't like final form. It's actually pretty bad. Final form is not that good. But at this point in time, you don't have a lot of choices. You really don't, because there's not a lot of Biolante cards out there right now. There's everything that you see in front of you is legitimately all of the Biolante cards. Every single one that you see right now in front of me, these are all of the Biolante cards. Now, I am playing a handful of Godzilla and Godzilla supporting cards. I have a feeling I'm taking out a lot of the supporting cards. I think that some of these... Oh my gosh, I forgot saying Biolantes. These Biolantes could definitely boost the deck. I don't know how I feel about the... See, Infant Island, I guess it does help get... Because like this deck, the Giant Mothra, this is the best card in the deck. So, if it will... There you go. When your spirits named Mothra or Batra are destroyed by the opponent, you can summon without paying the cost one green spirit with a higher cost than the destroyed spirit for your hand. So what you want to happen is you want this or this or this. You want these to get destroyed by the opponent so you can play your Biolante for free. That's the entire strategy of this deck. So I guess the Infant Island is important. Completely based upon your ability to search and find that card. That is it. That is the only value. But I mean, because it technically does grab your engine, it's important. And there's some, like, getting a Mothra in this deck is rarely bad because they all core boost. They're going to get you some sort of a resource, some sort of a bonus. They will add value. If you get to use the attack ability, great. If not, move on. It's not really that important. It is exciting, however, knowing that there are some other cards that are compatible with this deck. I'm highly considering I'm highly considering playing Godzilla 94 in this deck. It's just, why not core boost even more? Godzilla 94 is just a dumb card to start out with. I mean, the Anguirus is cute because it's kind of green. The Rodan is cute, but they're also not really that necessary. And I feel like that does drag down some of the excitement of the deck. Now, the Burning Kaiju King Godzilla, the only reason I'm really playing him is because he's half green. Other than that, I don't really understand his benefit or his flavor in this deck that much. The cool thing about this Biolante also is that this Biolante, you can get the benefit. This is going to core boost. You can core boost it. I mean, and the same thing for this guy. This Mothra can core boost that Biolante because it's also treated as a Godzilla. So I think the I see the Anguirus and the Rodan should technically go first. They should technically go first, but then you're like, what do I take out next? So I am going to look over the card list right now. I'm already on the wiki on my computer. Looking at the green, there's not really a lot of green cards, and there wasn't really, oops, sorry, microphone. There wasn't a lot of green support, really. It was all for Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, Destroya, and Ghidorah. Not really any Mothra support, so I'm hypothesizing we'll get Mothra support in the next set. What my wish would be is if they had a Mothra larva form and Mothra a Mothra larva form and a Batra larva form as a 2-in-1 spirit, kind of how they did the Tiger and Bunny collaboration. That would be absolutely insane. Just imagine a Mothra larva and Batra larva contract advent spirit. That would be insane. That'd be so cool. What a great idea I have. What a great idea I have. So unfortunately, there's just not really any green cards that came out in this set. So you're kind of running with what you have in relations to green cards. Now, the thing about this Biolante, like I said, it's just bad. It just does not do enough. I think this one is 1,000 times better than that one. So what I do is I think I take out 2 Anguirus and this other crummy Biolante. The Rodan, I guess, can kind of help out with Nexus Destruction. It's not super important, in my opinion, the Nexus Destruction in this deck. But like, I'm also not sure like how often this deck really gets like hurt or impeded by Nexus cards. So if you just stopped on in or editing my max rarity Biolante deck right now, I believe my Biolante deck is kind of split into 3 things. It's got Mothra, it's got Godzilla, it's got Biolante. This card right here is the best card in the deck. That's what makes the deck. That card says when a Mothra or Batra that I control is destroyed by the opponent, I can summon any green spirit from my hand that's a higher cost. So we use this card, it dies or another moth dies, and then I'm summoning a big old spirit from my hand then. That's exactly what I do in this deck. That is the core concept of this deck. That is all I want to do. And this latest set, CB28, actually came out with more Biolante cards. So right now we are working on, I think I just have to take out the Rodans and leave in the Anguirus. I think Anguirus, because it can be green, I'll keep it in. I'm taking out one of the proxied Biolantes that was it's just a slow card. It's just not good. It doesn't really help move your field forward. It doesn't progress your field. Your board's gonna remain relatively the same. You might be able to do something cute and stun something a little bit, but it's not necessarily going to be anything that you're actually going to feel any progress with. And therefore, it's just better to play something that just has a superior effect at when you are comparing them, when you're just comparing effects. So the other thing is it's fun now because we actually are going to get better Biolantes now. So these 3 secret rare Biolantes, of course, are the best one. This new one we got is actually the second best, and this original one is the worst. Now you still have these rose forms over here that when they're destroyed at level 2, which has 3 core, you get to summon any Biolante from your hand without paying the cost. So you can use that card to float into a bigger Biolante and possibly do a little bit more damage or possibly do some more sneaky things. Of course, you have your Rose Blooming in the Lake Nexus card. This card is actually probably the best card in the deck. You're going to core boost every single time you summon a spirit that's a cost 4 or higher. This card is insane. If you have more than one on the field, your core... Jet Saber had 3 of them on the field once, and it was disgusting to see how he was able to not only build, but maintain his core. It was actually disgusting. So, Mothra Squad over here at the very bottom. The Mothra Squad, essentially, like I said, this card, I'll switch these two around for cost reasons, I guess. These cards right here, their main benefit is exclusively to core boost. And then the other benefit that they're going to have for you is they're going to help you float into your larger spirits. So using the Giant Mothra, being able to float into the Kaiju Biolante, to float into your new Biolante, to float into your original Biolante, that is what you want it to do. You want to make it hard for them to get rid of them, but when they finally do, you want to get value out of them. Now, the Biolante part of this deck is fun, but we also really have to consider in this deck other ways to apply pressure. Other ways to apply pressure to your opponent. Godzilla 2004, Godzilla Final Wars. If you have enough core for that to summon that card and enter battle, if your opponent has more than 2 spirits in the field, you might just win that turn. When it starts attacking, you're probably going to win at that point. It's just that powerful. It's a spirit that keeps attacking and unsuspending, getting more powerful every single sequential attack. So essentially you just attack a bunch, and then your opponent just can't defend against a spirit that's legitimately 15,000. I mean, that's a huge BP. So you just get this huge spirit. You end up just blasting with it so many times, your opponent doesn't know what to do, and then they just lose. That's exactly what happens. So I think by putting in the new Biolante, I think that's going to help this deck out a lot. But as you can see, this deck still has a lot of problems with lacking originality, lacking creativity. And unfortunately with this deck, it's just based upon the card pool. It's really based upon what I have access to. It's really based upon what is beneficial for this deck. But what I mean by what is beneficial for this deck is you have to consider what this deck is can and cannot do. And what this deck can do is it can kind of stall while you kind of go for your bigger pieces. What it really can't do is it really doesn't have a good startup strategy. And even when you do get to your final strategy, it's not anything that's super impactful. They're cute cards. They're big cards. This is a catch your opponent off guard deck. This isn't a deck that you're going to go into a tournament knowing that you're going to win. This is a deck that you're going to play knowing that you are going to enjoy playing different aspects of Godzilla as one, understanding synergy of different Godzilla creatures and kaijus. That's really what you're going to gain out of playing this deck. And some people are like, well, why are you even playing this deck if it's not good? I think this deck can be competitive against what I have. And the decks that I've created they're all meant to be good, but they're all sequentially balanced. So all their power levels are restricted, but at the same time, I want them to be as realistic as I can. So some decks are just better because they have a better card pool, and that's it. And some of these Godzilla decks, I have to have... I can't really focus on the card pool in regards to creativity. It's just not a good idea for me. So we just continue to play with the with what we have, and we just attempt to build the best deck that we can with what we have available. And trying to be creative with the deck, this is kind of what I thought up. I mean, I am having a small brain blast right now, and I'm thinking to myself, what would happen if I decide to run the Godzilla Burst card? If I played 3 of those and dropped this down to 2, took out the 3 Anguirus, that could add some entertaining additional defense to this deck. Because this deck would like to have some more defense, I think. The defense it has in it is okay, but burst cards, I think, just... I mean, it's pretty obvious. Burst cards are just good. You want to play burst cards. Now, the Anguirus... Let's double check the Anguirus, because I know it's okay, but I don't necessarily think it's something that is a necessity. I don't think it's something that adds that much value. All right. Level 1, 2, 3. The spirit's color and symbol are also treated as green. Yay. Reduction. Level 1, 2, 3. This exhausted spirit is unaffected by opposing spirit / nexus effects. Okay, so you might be able to avoid some things. Cool. Level 2 or 3. When attacks, so that's 7,000 BP, 2 core. Draw a card. At the end of battle, if you control any Godzilla named Spirit or Grandwalker Nexus, once returned, the spirit refreshes. So Anguirus pretty much hides behind its shell when it's exhausted. Its shell is supposed to be impenetrable, that's why it can't be affected by Spirit or Nexus effects. When it attacks, if he has his friend Godzilla, he's going to be able to attack again. I don't find it that entertaining. I don't find Anguirus that entertaining. He's an okay card. He's actually pretty mid. I do think I'd get a lot more value out of a burst. It's going to scare my opponent more. It's going to allow my deck to float a little bit better. But if I take out Anguirus, I don't know what to do with the other 2 slots here. Now, the weird thing about this deck is this card's ability that it's not level specific, I believe. It's just an additional effect, is that its name is treated as Godzilla. So I could technically run Little Godzilla in this deck, grab 2004, grab this Biollante, grab Versus Mothra, grab 89. I could. I'm just trying to understand the value of some of the changes that I'm considering making. And unfortunately, that's kind of the big part of the way that I build decks, is I kind of just take out a big pile of cards, and I stare at them for a long time. And then I just kind of talk to myself and wonder, okay, would this card be beneficial? Why would it not be beneficial? I think the burst would truly be a beneficial card. Now I am a large advocate of playing cards at 3. So the problem is that do I take out 2 Anguirus and put in only 2 bursts? Or do I take out 2 Anguirus and 1 Burning Godzilla and put in 3 of the bursts? It's a difficult question to understand how much search power, because it's actually kind of interesting, because this Biollante is technically the only Biollante that's searchable in this deck right now. These Mothras, all 9 of these cards are searchable by the Infinite Island, so you have a decent hit rate. A quarter of the deck is pretty much Mothra. So you have a pretty high hit rate possibility to get a Mothra added to your hand. If I decided to play Little Godzilla, three, 3, 3, 9, so that's 11. So if I played Little Godzilla, I'd actually have a very an extremely high hit ratio when it comes to adding cards to my hand, but then I'm also playing Little Godzilla, and that's not necessarily the strategy I want to execute right now. I like the idea. Well, here's the thing. I like the idea of it being a Biolante deck, and I know that sometimes you have to add in supporting cards, you have to add in supporting cast things, you have to add in things to help the deck progress, help the deck continue to make strides, help the decks do better things. But right now, it's just kind of how much of the deck do you... And I guess it's just taking... So, what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't want the deck to be too focused on grabbing the not Biolante pieces, because essentially the more searching that I do, the more Biolantes that go to the bottom of the deck. Biolante can't get added to the hand by a Godzilla searching card except for one of them, which is better than none. It is better than none. But then you look at, like, Infant Island, that's going to get rid of any Godzilla, and it's going to get rid of any Biolante. So there are some cards that you do play in this deck that add to the frustration, I guess you could say. Now, I do think that putting in the burst in the Little Godzilla is actually a good idea. And that's really just going to come down to the fact that having that capability of being able to surprise your opponent, I think, is really big. I think this deck with the Mothra engine, you combine the Mothra engine with, let's say, the Rose Blooming in the Lake, the new Biolante that's technically searchable. I think being able to search for some additional power is good. And on top of that, I just think being able to get more cards is good. Cards that replace themselves are great. So right now, we gotta look. I'm looking up the good old translations for Battle Spirits cards. So let's double check that Biolante. That Biolante is cool. Yep, it's just an overhead ability. So let's go ahead and look at my binder and grab 3 of those burst cards. I don't know why I took my headphones off, because I thought for a moment, like, how far away am I going to have to go? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I was smart this time when I brought my collection closer. Gotta get to the Goji cards. Man, my binder is so full. Here are some of them. Alright, so I will do 3 of these bursts, hoping that they make my deck a little bit better. These are the bursts that I'm talking about. I feel like playing that burst is just going to make this deck so much more fun to play. So much more fun to play. Just a beauty. And, oh, this burst is fun. This is going to be a fun card to play in this deck. Thinking we're going to greatly surprise our opponents. Ta-da! And now I look for... Thought this card had a dent, but it's just the sleeve. Scared me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a huge dent. Nope, it's just the sleeve, everybody. It's just the sleeve. We're all right. We're okay. We're still building battle spirits. All right, so now we just added in our extra Godzillas over here. All right, now we just need our baby Gojis. Our little Gojis. I'm sure I'll have some in my Godzilla binder, but I hope I don't F it up at all. No, I don't have any in here. Ah, I'll be back. Good news is that I have my microphone on me, so you get to come with me while I go ahead and grab my white box of Godzilla Battle Split. Oh no! I just knocked my controller into my Jersey Mike's bag that Nova Lance and I had for lunch. Not the bag, obviously, the food. So I came over here. I am looking for Little Goji. He is a red spirit. I'll grab 2 of that little effer. Wherever that little guy is. I have a ton of them. Why are you hard to find tonight? Alright, this isn't funny. Where do they all go? There's no way they're all in decks because I'm taking apart all the decks that they were in. I know you're not in a deck. Quit hiding. Sorry, everybody. I have to go on a more in-depth investigation to find where these went. It wasn't in the red section, and you're supposed to stay in the red section. I guess I do have commons in front of me if I do have to use them. I'll be sad. Commons it is for now, boys and ladies that are watching. Hopefully there's a lot of ladies watching. I'm okay with guys watching, but hopefully some of the ladies are watching too. Being like, dude, Battle Spirits, dude, Godzilla, dude, Gundam. Sounds like super cool. And I'm like, yeah, it is cool. And I'm back. Hello, everybody. Every time people start watching my stream, you always gotta make sure they're real people. That's weird. I wish that I had legitimate viewers, someone that actually cared. Oh well. Take out these 2 burning Gojis because he is kind of boring playing in every deck. Playing these 2 little Gojis just to do a little searching, I think won't hurt. I think that actually will make the deck a little bit more fun. And just like that, we've updated Biolante. This is, in my opinion, the best way to play Biolante. This is going to be, well, not the best way, honestly, but I think this is the most creative that you can be to play Biolante. And that's what really matters with this deck is how you're being creative with it, because you really never ever want to pay full cost to get Biolante out. You kind of just want to play other spirits to do so. So in this deck, your main goal is to kind of just search for your big stuff, kind of slowly maintain and build core while you're doing that. So it's a really weird deck that you end up playing, because you want to maintain your core, you want to somehow change the music. You'll have to, I always forget how. Studio mode? No. Layout editor. App Store, widgets. I forgot how to do the music, Nova Lance. Music. Can you come and get me chapstick too? Oh, I found it. League of Legends inspired. FIFA. EDM. Yeah, womp, 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 womp. Forgot how to get out of this mode. So, I gotta get back. Gotta get back. Yay. How do I exit this screen again?
Go to editor at the top left.
Oh, nice. Nova Lance comes on in to save the day. There she is. I've been going for almost 40 minutes.
Okay.
I've made a little tweak to Biolante so far. Finally added in the new Biolantes. This one's actually really good. And it's only a cost 6. So it's gonna make the Biolante deck a little bit more fun to play. It's gonna add a little bit more flavor. It's the only searchable Biolante right now because it's treated as Godzilla, so it can technically get searched by a couple of cards. The Godzilla vs. Mothra helps the deck core boost, so I think this newer version of Biolante will be a little bit more fun to play. What are you doing?
Still working a little revenue stuff.
Okay. You.
I was given the wrong end date or due date for stuff.
Oh no, everybody say, oh no, Nova Lance.
No, Nova Lance. So tomorrow's the end of the fiscal year for our company. And so I was originally told, as long as we get it in by tomorrow, we're good. I was not told, get it in the day before tomorrow so it can get processed on the actual last day. And I'm like, oh, why didn't you say that before? I thought I was the final step. But
You
apparently
thought
everyone
you were
signed up.
important to the corporation.
And guys, making $10,000 credits is kind of interesting. Damn, my name's on there.
We will miss the Britain. Alright, so right now we just built a Godzilla deck. I kind of want to look at a Gundam deck. And what Gundam deck do I want to look at right now? I would like to look at my seed decks. So that's a Godzilla deck. Evangelion. Gundam. Excuse me. Now I gotta make sure that all of my X-rares and secret rares don't smash each other and hurt each other. Play fair. Play nice and fair. Fair fight. Dude, fair fight. Freedom Gundam. Justice Gundam. Justice Gundam. Freedom Gundam. Ale Strike Gundam. Strike Rouge Gundam. Strike Gundam. Freedom Gundam Magic Card. Strike Gundam Magic Card. Kigaliulatha. Mulaflaga. Kira Yamato. Catherine Zala. Haro Haro. Gotta move these Kiras over here. Or Athrons. Come on, justice and freedom. The Haros are probably going to be the easiest thing to make an adjustment to, but who knows? Kusanagi's Archangels. Alright, so these are all the cards that we have. Let's see if I can go to World of Cards. World of Cards, Facebook. Photos. Albums. New Gundam. Alright, what does Talia Gladys do? No, we don't want to look at Talia Gladys. We want to look at Murray Ramius. Now, does Murray Ramius... Now, this is the thing that I'm kind of strict on with these decks, is I'm trying to make sure that I play them accurately. Okay. So, the Murray Ramius card that we get is from Seed Destiny. That's what outfit she's wearing. Her Seed Destiny outfit. So that means I wouldn't even consider playing her in this deck because she is wearing her Seed Destiny outfit. I'm very particular with the outfits they're wearing and playing them with said appropriate deck. And that's another reason why it makes it very difficult for me to build the decks that I like, because I have really crazy restrictions that I try to maintain, and that makes the deck building just as difficult. All right, well that really helps. Now, any other new cards? A lot of the new cards are for Seed Destiny. So for this deck, I don't really see much that's going to be additionally beneficial coming from the new set. I thought that the Ramius could have helped, but considering it's from the next show, not necessarily going to be of any help. Looking back at some of the older sets for Seed and Seed Destiny, so this would just be exclusively Seed. This is meant to enact the final battle in Seed. So let's see here. That's Seed Destiny. It's Impulse stuff. stray stuff. Seed Freedom card for no reason. Shin. Oh, there's just Waltfeld Gaia Gundam custom. Just not a lot of it's all Seed Destiny, or it's all Seed Destiny. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So there's really not a lot of additional cards that are out there that we can really play around with. We're kind of just stuck with this card pool for the most part, and it's not a bad card pool. Like this deck it's a powerful deck. You just kind of wish that you could include a little bit more variations. I think it's funny. Jin, Goon, Baku, M1 Astray, Sigu, Zeno, Mobius 0. You know, Moo's not flying on that. Strike Gundam, Ale Strike Gundam. And then we just have the starting Ale Strike into the Launcher Strike. The Launcher Strike's the crazy one. Now, the thing about this deck is I try to make sure I include most of the cards from certain scenes in the show. There are some cards that you kind of just have to go with what you have and use your imagination a little bit. For example, the Ale Strike. This isn't exactly in space. That's not exactly close to the lore. But sometimes you have to do with what you got. And sometimes that's the closest you have to the actual lore. Because the most recent things that came out are all for Seed Destiny. There's not really anything that came out for just Seed. I feel like at this point they're trying to make it a point that they're past Seed. Now, in a deck like this, do you consider deactive mode? Because deactive mode is just the Gundam in the hangar getting equipment put on. So I think if I took out these 3 strikes, or at least I could take out the 3 Haros. See, the Haro is good because it actually puts your opponent into some sort of draw stun. It slows them down. It makes it so that they're less capable of being able to plus than you, which is an annoying thing that white is capable of doing. The Strike Gundam can discard Burst though, so it's really good. The Haro's good because it allows you to, because it can't put that pressure on against your opponent. The deactive mode though is just it adds all your strikes, so you'd be able to get any one of these, and then you would be able to get technically any of your bigger suits if it is level 2. Ultimately, I think it is the better card to play than Haro, and it's a spirit. Now, you might not get the... So let's go ahead and I'm going to make that adjustment because it just seems logical. And it's a great card to play. The art is okay. And the thing is, like, Haro's a great card too. It just lacks creativity, in my opinion. There we go. 3 deactive modes. Take out these little Haros, put in these deactive modes. Just make everything more searchable. Searching is good. Make the deck more consistent. Make the card more deadly. You don't really have any way to exchange in this deck that much, which is perfectly fine. That's not necessarily what this deck is trying to do anyways. This deck is going to eventually just put on really huge spirits that your opponent can't necessarily handle. And they're going to have catastrophic abilities that make it more difficult for your opponent's spirits to survive. So I think we do play a Strike Gundam package in this deck. The Haros are cute, the reduction is fun, but sometimes it's just not what the deck is supposed to do. So we do got our Kusanagi, we do have our Archangel, we got our Strike Gundams, our Strike Rouge. Let's look at our Strike Rouge again. Flash opposing attack step, summon this card from the hand by paying 2 costs. When summoned, besides the spirit, if you control any white orb family spirit or braves, the opposing and its opposing attack step when this battle ends, and the attack step. Base shift armor 6 or less at level 2, 3. So this card is mainly just to end the battle. Regali just comes out, tries to end the battle, doesn't work. It's a beautiful looking card though. I do like the art of the Strike Rouge. I think that's pretty much it though for this deck. As far as like what we can actually change right now. There's just not a lot of cards for this deck. There's just not. Mu, Izak, Rao, Kohasar, Kusanagi. Those who carry the seed factor. When opposing players attack, you can immediately use this card from the hand without paying the cost splash during this turn. Your white mobile suit family spirits can block while exhausted. During this turn, your spirits brave Akira, Atherin, Lacus, Kigali, Shin, named Braves gain 10,000 BP. Are unaffected by opposing effects and can block opposing can't be blocked spirits. So it's a pretty effing good effect. I just don't know what I'd take out. Maybe the Strike Gundam. So I'm trying to cut it anyways. Maybe put this to 3, put this to 2. Those who carry the seed factor. Would work. And yeah, that card could definitely work in this deck. Oh, that's so perfect for this deck, actually. Those who carry the seed factor, come on back. Pile of cards. Now we're getting to the magics. Magic. What? Magic. I got the magic seed. I got the magic. What? The magic. Yeah. I got the magic seed. Alright. Put in are those who carry the seed factor. Take out some of these original strikes. And like this card is really good, but we're really trying to get to those higher cost spirits. This is just going to be a fun card. An additional quirky magic card that we play with this deck. Essentially because we do play both Kira and Atherin that are also both wearing their outfits. Their pilot costumes and the art. You do play the Justice Strike, or excuse me, the Freedom justice combo, so you get that synchronicity together. Now, Strike Rouge might be in the trade binder, so I'll take a quick look. Quick look, fast look, super duper quick look. It's going to be in my white section, which is right in the beginning. No. No. And bummer. I swear I had some Strike Rouges around here. I think I moved all my Gundam stuff to the beginning. I really want to say I moved all my Gundam stuff. Checking the binder. Gotta go to some of the last few pages to see if I actually have any more Godzilla cards in here. Goodbye, Evangelion. Hello, Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's see here. Did I put it in the back? I do not have any Strike Rouge in my binder. Oh, my arm itches so bad. I don't have any Strike Rouges in the binder, everybody, so we might have to go and find the box. Sorry, we will have to go find the box that does have what I am looking for, which is Strike Rouges. Man, I swear I had them. Maybe I just took them out because I remember what sleeves they were in. They were in these really tall, silly sleeves. So maybe I just took the cards out. So I have been moving a lot of cards around. All right, you're coming with me, everybody. Also got to make sure I'm not bumping stuff too badly. Ow, my wrist itches. All right, so I am looking for Gundam cards. These are all Godzilla cards. We want Gundam. That's going to be Evangelion. We're looking for Gundam Hollows. Bulk Gundam Hollows. That is where we're going to find our Strike Rouge. That's Digimon. This is Digimon. Not this one. That one's just Digimon. Oh, this one's really heavy. Oh, this looks promising, everybody. Yay! Found it! Now we just look for Gundam Seed? Here we go. Here's Atherin's. Oh, that's it. Where's that Strike Rouge? I know I have it around here somewhere. Sorry, everybody. I don't know where my card is. And I know I have them. It is a... There's one. Found it. Grr. When you know you have the card, you just don't know where it is in your massive collection, so you just keep looking and looking and looking. And you finally... Then I finally found it. All my life. Pray for someone like you. Now, do I feel like I'm being silly? Yes, but I also think the Strike Rouge is an important card to play in the seed deck. I think the card really makes an appearance during seed, so I think it's okay to play it in this deck. I think it's okay to max out on it. So I think that's a fun edit and upgrade to this seed deck. Now, the biggest thing about this seed deck is I don't think that there's really much else that I can really do with it. Kind of based on the fact that the card pool is very tiny. Card pool is extremely tiny. And right now with these Kiras and Athrons, there's just not a whole lot of extra space, extra movement that you can really look at in this deck. And I don't really think there's a lot of like magic cards for this version of the deck. Now, we do have a version of this deck that is, oh, it's right up here. Oops. It's actually it's right here. This is a version of the deck of things that like literally just happened a little bit earlier in the show. So this is the deck that I just shown you is the final battle. This is one of the I think when you first meet the Freedom Gundam. Your battle and orb. I know I have 3 of each. It's deactive modes, Moos, Athrons, Kiras, Magic Card, Kusanagis, Archangels, and that's the entire deck. It's kind of a blocky, kind of a boring deck. There's not a lot of creativity with the deck. There's not a lot of like huge variety with the deck, but it's still kind of neat. It's still something that I do think is fun to play around with. I do think it's still something that's cool to... It's a fun concept. I think it's definitely a fun concept. The Freedom's first launch, Battle of Orb, I think it is what this is called. You get the Freedom, you get the Justice to finally jump in and start battling. This is a very exciting part in the series. A lot happens in this part of the series that I think sets the tone for everything else that happens. And taking that into consideration, making sure that that is an accurate scene in the way that this deck is played is very important to me. So that's something that I have done with this deck. And I play 2 Moos because Moo does pilot these Perfect Strike Gundam. And this, I mean, the part about this deck is that you really don't play a lot of Strike Gundams. You only play the Advent Strike Gundam. The IMAT Burst we just don't play in this deck. I feel like to have some additional variety and to really have the focus be on this strike, that's why I only have 1 strike. I do like playing a variety of the Justice Gundam because I do feel like the Justice Gundam doesn't get a lot of the respect that it does deserve. So we're giving it a little extra attention. And the sad thing is, Seed is kind of in the rearview mirror right now for Battle Spirits. As in, they haven't really gone back to Seed at all. They're touching Seed Destiny, but they're not going to go back to Seed. And so that it is frustrating to know that they're not going back to Seed, because this is a deck, this is a series that could definitely benefit from some additional support. And that's kind of the thing about battle spirits and card games, that they can always make better cards. They can always make different versions of things. I think that this deck could absolutely do that and be in that discussion. Now, for this style of deck, however, this is kind of close to what we can do with it. We have a lot of reduction right here with our Nexuses. We don't need to play Haro. We're playing 8 Braves in this deck. Now, the problem with this deck is that deactive mode is really your only search card in this deck. So why that's bad is because you just don't have a lot of draw power. You don't have a lot of ways to find the additional cards that you do need. So like the Astray, it is a cute card, but how would we rather play Haros in a deck like this? Would you rather play Haro in a deck that you know you struggle to get to your pieces? Sometimes the white color, sometimes you need to use a lot of pieces to make other things work. That takes away from your consistency. So let's see what I can do with my consistency right here. If I were to take out these cards, so there is the Extinction Wall Burst that I have considered. For each life reduced when this burst activates, put a core from the void your life. Then by paying the cost, activate this card's flash effect. I think that card would better fit the... I think that card would actually better fit the Strike Gundam deck, just exclusively Strike Gundam deck, based upon the fact of the art that's in there. It's just Lacus with her dress. She's not really too animate, and I think that is more like how she was in the beginning of the series than towards the middle of the series. And like I said, I'm making my decks accurate. And looking at all the other cards, there's just not really a lot of other cards that you're going to want to include in this deck. I mean, some of these other Ale Strikes are just not good, and you really only play... It's really like a couple episode battle, so there are some cards like that, and that's why playing the Astray is fun in this deck, is because playing the Astray allows you to generate core, and now there are some other cards that let you generate core. Playing cards like your Justice Gundams with Advent is a great feeling. Now, the only part about cards that like these, your Advent is cost 5 or more. You're really only going to get that with these, or if these are braved. So it's kind of a more difficult... It's a very lore accurate deck, but sometimes being lore accurate can take away from additional consistency. So that is something that I do battle with, is that some of these decks are like, okay, well now I've made it so accurate that it feels like it is just so much less beneficial. Or if this one goes to the white one. No, they both go to the red one. That's funny. White Haro. Because I'm actually thinking about White Haro right now, because if this deck doesn't have like the ability to actually search, why? I mean, the Astray is lore accurate. Posing turn, when the opposing hand increases by an effect, draw a card. I need 4 core for that on the Astray, but I guess... You know what? No, I'll try it with the Astray, because these 2 cards are the cards that are actually going to help you draw cards. Now the Haro is definite, the Astray is it has to be through an opposing effect, but the Astray can pop off multiple times and you don't have to discard a card. The only thing is it does take up 4 cores, so I will test out the Astray. There's not really a whole lot in this deck to change. There's not a whole lot to actually change in just standard Seed. Maybe it's just Seed Destiny that we have to look at. So we can put this deck aside. I'm going to take a look at one more deck for the evening, folks. After that, I am going to end my stream. I've been having a lot of fun. We've kind of just gone over a few decks and kind of just helped re-justify some of the decisions, help justify why some cards are in the deck, what they do for the deck, and how they help the deck, how they help the deck synergize, and why they can either make the deck more fun, less fun, if they are more lore accurate. So there's just so many different elements that go into the different decks that I do have. And people are going to be like, Neon Omen, does that drive you crazy? And I'm going to be like, absolutely. It does. But then they're going to be like, Neon Omen, is it rewarding? And I'm like, absolutely. And so then people are going to like, which one's better? And I'm like, I can't tell you that because I don't know yet. It is so much work. Oh, okay. So here's a bunch of extra cards. Perfect. What do we got over here? Okay, Evangelion. Digimon, Godzilla, Gundam. Alright, we gotta go green, everybody. We're going green! For our dicks. Evangelion, Gundam. Alright, everybody. Last deck of the evening. Last deck. Alert. Last deck. So now we're going to look. I'm going to be looking at my Seed Destiny deck. Now this deck is... It's fun. It's a fun deck, but it's also kind of degenerate in the strategy that you play. And I'll kind of show you why. And part of what I want to think about with this deck is kind of where in the series some of the things are. Because I might be moving a lot of cards depending on what we get back. Because there are different points in the show that I am trying to convey certain things. And that ultimately will help me understand what cards that I want to play and what cards I don't want to play in this deck. Alright, so this is my current Seed Destiny deck. It's an awesome looking deck. Seed Destiny is super cool. If you just stopped in, thanks for stopping on in. We are looking at my Seed Destiny deck. Looking at all the cool cards that we have, all the different strategies that we have. So straight off the bat, I have to kind of understand or decide where in the series I want to be with these cards. Do I want to be at the beginning, the middle, the end? Now, the Strike Freedom is the main part of this Seed Destiny deck. Strike Freedom comes in halfway through the show, or towards the last third of the show. The Strike Freedom comes in, and that's when things really start happening. So the first thing I know what I want to do is I'm going to take out the Haros, and we're going to put in Murray Ramius. That is going to be the first thing that we're going to do. So these 3 Haros are already going to be Murray Ramius. We want to have our Ramius. We want our consistency. The consistency makes the deck a lot more fun, a lot more enjoyable. That's how we're going to get it. That's how we're going to play it. Now, the next thing that we have to figure out is, with this deck, where are we at? Are we at the Atoxickeys kind of first show? Because I think when that happens, we see the Strike for the first time too. So if that's the case, I'm going to have to figure out if I want to just do earlier if I do earlier in the show, we just have the Strike Gundam. And if we just have the Strike Gundam, we wouldn't have Athrun as a part of the squad. So earlier in the show, we have Kira piloting the Freedom Gundam, and the Freedom Gundam uses its high map burst. This is the burst version. But we also see the Atatsuki. We also see a bunch of, like, we see the Strike Rouge, we see Astray units. So we see a lot of grunt units. We do get Ramius in there. I don't really understand how much. I think we just get the Kusanagi at the very end of the show. So if we do change it, this is what it would look like. Technically, I could put in more Haros, but it's really important for me to pick out where in the show I want to touch with my Seed Destiny deck. Because I want it to still have creativity, but at the same time, I don't want it to be boring. Having a boring deck is not fun at all. So I'm going to look at the Freedom Gundam Burst, because that's kind of just kind of came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, here's a Freedom Gundam. You're like, why? And you're like, because. You're like, okay. If you say so, I guess we'll take it. Let's see what it says. The wing from the past awakened by Kira to fight against the Lacus assassination team. So this is like the first time the Freedom comes out in the show. Interesting. Okay. So then it's good we have the Atatsuki. Now that's something that Kigali does pilot. Perfect Strike was from Seed. Awashi, Seed Destiny, Sealed Impulse is not the Strike Rouge. Otari. Tori equipped. That's this card right here. That's when Kigali keeps going out trying to say, please quit shooting me. And they're like, we're not going to listen to you. And she's like, what? This card, if it survives, it's going to core boost you. This card is really good, actually. It can send spirits or nexuses to the deck bottom. This is for sure in the deck. This is kind of a blurry picture. I'm curious if that's the HD remake or not. Because if it's not, you're like, why would you put all this money into it and not use it? So I am kind of at a weird spot with this deck. Because if I do choose to do the earlier part of Seed Destiny, there's not a lot of the cards to choose from. Now, if I say, and this is kind of the hard part, because if I go halfway through Seed Destiny, I have a different card pool to choose from. And this is, it gets even more difficult because this isn't, oh man, because this isn't the final battle, but I think if I edit a final battle deck instead at first, maybe that would be easier for me. Let's do that. So instead, what if I took out these cards, all of these, I put these back in. And I'm keeping this Justice in because that's the pose that the Justice makes when it kicks the Destiny gun and it makes it explode. What an exciting end. The mothership's over here. Now, if I play the Kusanagi mothership, I think I want to say that Kigali was on board at the end, but I don't remember. Three-ship alliance. Kigali. Orb. C-section. Kigali. She's got her green flag. That must mean orb. Gotta read some of the cards that we don't know what they do. That's the hard part of a Japanese game is, and sometimes I just get so just entranced with like reading the proxies. I'm like, oh my gosh, or reading the story. So Kigali is not present in the final battle. She's only present in the beginning, so she would only work with this part of, so these cards would actually be to the side. But now if we look at this deck, so this is how my mind works, and this is how it gets more frustrating and just way more difficult to build this deck. So, for example, this deck, these would be 3 Ramius. Now, we still play the Kusanagi because I believe the Kusanagi still does launch at the very end. And then we would play, so we know that there is going to be 3 Justice Meteors and there's going to be a Strike Meteor. We know that's coming. So that's 6 more Spirit cards that would essentially fill more of what we have available. So those would work. And then let's see here. I think that's kind of, oh, and then we get the new Atatsuki. So we would put that there. We have new Mulaflaga, which we could represent as Kigali. Well, if brave to an Atatsuki Shirayun unit, your life cannot be reduced by 0 by opposing spirits of past 10 or lower, so that's it's a very gimmicky, but it could help. He is cost reduction. He does have a gimmicky ability to summon from the trash. As far as what we know from this set, that's kind of, we don't have a huge card pool. So that's like when I try to split it up in my mind, like, okay, how many cards do we have for this? How many cards do we have for that? This is really just all we have to go off of. Because there's no way we get a Justice Meteor without a strike meteor. It's just, there's just 0% of that's happening. We know we're gonna get a new Destiny Gundam because it's on the booster pack. I swear I saw. So far we just have a Justice Meteor. There's no way we're gonna get a Justice Meteor and not a Strike Meteor. There's just no way that that's going to happen. So we're able to fill up a lot of spots in this deck, especially taking into consideration this is trying to be the final battle deck. This is supposed to be where everything stops. This is where the series concludes, big finale. The problem is that I'm just very stiff with the way I want to play this deck. Now, technically, I guess I could play Kigali, but she's a part of the battle, but she's at home. But at the same time, her abilities don't have anything to do with what this deck is meant to accomplish. She's very passive. Very, very passive. And it's kind of annoying, but she does protect you a lot from dying early, so you can kind of just bolster and stack the cards that may have been more difficult at the beginning, but you're able to get them a lot easier towards the end. And I guess I could play Haro in this deck, but that's another way that we kind of get stuck with this deck, is we get to this point to where, like, okay, do I play? And that is something with my Gundam decks that I am trying to figure out. How close do I respect the art? How much do I take the art into consideration when building the decks? Do I look at some of these decks and be like, okay, this is from this scene, so I should play it only in this deck? Or how do I decide, how do I ultimately make those decisions on where certain cards should be? Now, the other thing, this Infinite Justice Gundam, if I use the other X-Rare version of it, the non-secret, then I play that in the other deck. So I feel like I made a lot of progress. I feel like there's interesting ways that I can split these decks up. I ultimately do feel like until this next set comes out, I'm kind of stuck with some of these decks. Because I have so many strategy ideas that I want to implement, but I don't know how valid they're going to be when I examine the card pool. Because it feels like with the cards they're going to give me, I'm not going to have the tools that I need to exercise the creativity that I want to have for these decks. And that makes me a little sad, but sometimes you just have to deal with what cards are given to you. And ultimately, I am the one that's giving myself my own trauma. Ultimately, I am the one that makes it more difficult for these decks to work, based upon the fact I want them to be fun to use. But if the decks are bad, it does make it a lot more difficult for them to be fun to use. So that's one of the biggest points in these decks that I kind of have to consider how I want to build them and what they're going to do for the decks that I'm making, because some of these cards that I put in these decks I feel like don't necessarily have the ability to make the deck as consistent that I want it to be. But at the same time, there's a lot of defense that this deck has. So does this deck look at being able to have a slow start based upon some of the facts towards the end? Because maybe I do take out this Astray and put back in those other strikes because of the fact that I am playing these Advent Spirits. These Advent Spirits need the cost 5 Spirit. The other Spirits tree is cost 5. The Astrays are cute. And they can draw, so that's not like, those are some of the decisions that I struggle with mentally, because I'm like, okay, this deck is a lot more lore accurate. It does things more accurate to the way that the show does them. but sometimes I feel like that makes what I'm trying to do worse. It lowers my consistency. It makes it more difficult to accomplish what I actually want to accomplish with the deck. And that's just not fun. It's really not. It's frustrating, and it makes it more difficult to entertain with the decks. Because the Astray is okay. It can draw boost you, but you do have to have 4 core on him. So he has to survive and then survive a little longer. Not necessarily what you want. The Strike Gundam is going to be able to core boost. It's going to be able to be a little bit more aggressive. But ultimately, it's a cheaper card that does give you access to your Advent targets. Now, technically, you don't always have to Advent. The Kusanagi is going to make it a lot easier to play those spirits if you just want to play them. And that's another thing that I tried to make this deck more capable of doing, is playing higher cost spirits without having to always rely on the cost reduction. So I guess I might just take out these Astrays and put back in the Strike Gundams. It's something I want to think about right now. In this other Gundam deck, it's supposed to be the final battle. I guess I put in some more rouges and putting in the deactive modes. Why not just search for some more cards? Why not have a little bit more capabilities of ending the battle? And I think that could just be a little bit more entertaining way for you to kind of stall and kind of get your pieces, then finally cash in when it's really important. And that's something that I kind of struggle with this deck, is that the strike has kind of been repurposed at this point into the perfect strike Gundam. I don't mind playing the deactive mode because that's when he's getting all of his armor equipped, so he's turning into the perfect strike. I could play Haro over the Astray. It is gonna add reduction. I feel like it almost just helps out more with the deck, honestly. I don't know how beneficial this Astray is going to be. I think it's just one of those cards that I play to like, oh, I'm playing more different cards in the card pool, but I think this Astray card is... Oh. And that's another thing, is I do have a lot of testing to do with these decks. So another part about playing these decks is testing them, and I haven't really been given a huge opportunity to test some of these decks. So when I think about the consistency, I feel like this just... core boosting isn't important. It's just not. It's not. I think in this deck, the Haro is still the optimal play. And I think the Haro is still the optimal play based upon the fact that it's reduction. And it's spammable reduction. It puts your opponent in an annoying spot where they know they're going to have to discard. There's one thing about plussing off your opponent, but there's another thing to plus off your opponent, reset another plus, and make your opponent really consider how they're going to move. Because eliminating the ability for them to get that original plus could be critical for your ability to maintain pace in the game. So I'm going to put these Haros back in. We're going to bump out the Astrays. We made a lot of fun changes tonight. I think that this ultimately will make this deck run a lot better. Adding to the reduction of this deck is going to make it just better. The Haros was a fun idea. I just don't think it's going to be the strength of this deck. The strength of this deck is the ability to get your pilots, get your mobile suits, get them into those mobile suits, get them attacking, get your Braves working, and just ultimately start dealing heavy damage quickly. That, I think, for tonight, I think we made a lot. I made a lot of progress. I kind of reshaped Biolante, add in the new Biolante, and then I took a look at some of my seed decks. So I think we made a lot of progress tonight. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thanks for watching a little bit of Battle Spirits. Me on Almond is here. I'm going offline. We'll see you next time. I'll see you.